And now I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar titled Microsoft Office Tips and Tricks. I'm going to hand things over to our featured presenter today. She's no stranger to our webinars and a truly outstanding New Horizons instructor, Bobby Garrity. Bobby, you now have the floor.
Happy Thursday, everybody. It's almost Friday. We are super excited that you're joining us for this webinar, and I'm looking forward to showing you some tricks, tips, shortcuts in Microsoft Office. I often think of this content that you'll see today as sort of a time management course, because ultimately these types of shortcuts that you'll see today are going to help us streamline the processes and work ultimately smarter, not harder. That's kind of what we're all after. I'll be demoing on my screen from Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook, and showing you just a few of the quick tricks, tips, sort of hidden features, some of them new and some of them not new, but absolutely maybe new to you, because sometimes we're just self-taught enough to be dangerous. We go the long way around. So I'm going to start us off with Excel. And as Mike said, as you have questions, he will be fielding those. And at the end of each of these applications, I'll give you a few minutes to just make sure I've answered those questions before I move on. So kicking it off with Excel, and as a reminder, we are recording, so you can go back and review these if you need to. In Excel, what you're seeing on my screen is just a little bit of content. What I'm going to show you first is how to convert this data to an Excel chart. And it happens to be my all-time favorite trick, tip, shortcut, keyboard shortcut. You can convert any data in Excel, any version, with one key, and it's the F11 key. You'll notice I've selected this data. All I'm going to do is tap F11. That's it. It will convert that data over to a column chart by default. You'll notice that happened on a brand new sheet at the bottom. There's my raw data. There's the new sheet called Chart 1 with the default column chart that's displayed. So a really great way to visually demonstrate your data very quickly. If you decided that you didn't want this to be a column chart in the future, maybe you have a preferred chart or you want to change the chart type, then on my Design tab, which has my chart tools, I can simply change the chart type. And you'll notice there's a whole host of options here on the side. I could convert this to any of the charts. And if any of you really are big chart users and you have one of these that you prefer over the column chart, just so you know, you could right click any of the ones across the top and change your default chart. So next time you use that F11, it would automatically convert to your preferred chart. I'm going to leave this on the column chart for a moment. I'll show you one other newer feature in the chart family, which is the chart filter. It lives right here on the side. As I click on this, you'll notice that there's a panel. Essentially, this gives us sort of a live interactive filter for the charts, which we've not had before. I'll uncheck a couple of these that maybe I don't want to be displayed, and I'll choose Apply at the bottom. And you'll see those happen, of course, live on your screen to quickly display specific sets of data that you'd like to select. So that's the new chart filter over on the right. As we used that F11 and it converted to a chart on a brand new sheet, that may be what you want, certainly, but I'm going to go back to the original chart sheet with the raw data, and I'll show you one other keyboard shortcut in relation to charts. I'll zoom out a little bit. Maybe instead of it going to a brand new sheet to be displayed, maybe we'd like to create the chart here on the same sheet so that I could print that together with the raw data. I still have the data selected. This time I'll use on my keyboard Alt and the F1 key. Alt F1 puts the chart on the same sheet. And I have the same, of course, options that I had before that I showed you where we could convert that chart to whatever you prefer. So F11 for a new sheet, Alt F1 for the same sheet. Those are a couple of quick tricks to create a chart. Again, that happens in any version of Excel. Those work the same. Now, in this case, I'm going to save this to my desktop because I'm going to go back and use this chart again in just a few minutes when I show you how to, I'll call this one the Excel chart. When I show you in PowerPoint how to bring a chart in. as a linked or embedded file. So I'm going to hold on to that. We'll go back to that chart in just a few minutes. Now, for the moment, I'm going to get rid of the chart and I'm going to continue to use this data that is on my chart sheet. And I'll show you another relatively new feature in Excel that is called quick analysis. And it's exactly that. It's a quick way to analyze your data. I have all of these tools on the ribbon, but sometimes in a hurry, in a time crunch, we just want to quickly analyze this particular data. The way this works is as I select any data in Excel, I'll have this little screen tip, this little icon that is indeed a quick analysis button. And when I click on the button, it gives me 5 categories across the top. You'll see I'm first on the formatting category. And as I hover over these, it'll give me a live preview of some of the conditional formatting tools that are built into Excel, just to basically show me a graphical representation of that data, trends and patterns. We also have colors, icon sets, the top numbers, etc. So those are my conditional formatting live previews that we get with the quick analysis. There's also a category for charts where I can hover over these and get a live preview of the different charts. That way you can kind of have a preview of where your data might be best suited in a graphical representation. I would say probably our favorite is the totals category. You'll see why as I hover over these. You can get auto sums, average, count, percent, etc. with just a live preview. You don't have to use those formulas when you're just in a hurry and you want to do a quick calculation. So those are really nice to use. You also have the fourth category, which is tables, converting your data to a table very quickly. And the fifth category is also a relatively new feature to the Excel family called sparklines. Sparklines allows us to see trends or patterns in a range of data. I only have 5 employees here. I could kind of eyeball this, but in your real world, when you have thousands of rows of data, this could be useful to show you how the employees are doing, where they're up and down. You have 3 choices for sparklines that are built in: a line, a column, and then a win-loss, which we don't have here. That would be a positive, negative numbers. So the line is very popular. I will indeed choose the line sparkline just so you can see a couple of additional features on the design tab specifically for the sparklines. If I am using the sparkline, I may want to put a dot on the high point for my employees or put a dot on the low point. So those are a couple of check boxes that you could use, or I may want to see the markers just so I can visually kind of see those pop off the page where those changes occur. So those are your sparklines, as well as it just being one of the features that's built into that quick analysis button. So those are very handy, very quick to use. I think you'll enjoy those. I'm toggling now over to the sheet called concatenate at the bottom. This is also a relatively new feature in Excel. I would say one of our very favorites that's been added to the Excel family. And it's on the concatenate sheet because some of you may have used the concatenate formula before. It was a little bit tedious. It was actually a lot tedious and time consuming. And the purpose of a concatenate formula, if you're not familiar, would be to take something that lives in separate cells and put them together into one cell. In this case, I have Sarah Kling and her employee number. Maybe I would like for that to be in one cell. And in the past, we had to use a concatenate formula. For time's sake, I won't do that because now we really don't have to. We can use the new feature that's called Flash Fill, F-I-L-L, Flash Fill. And the way this works is I'm simply out to the side going to type in what I'd like to see displayed. Maybe in this case, we want Sarah Kling and her employee number, GW29. When I go down to the second row, I'm going to begin to type, and Excel will see where I'm going with this and say, I'll help you out. I see what you're doing. I'll finish that pattern for you. So all I'm going to type for Sean Willis is SE, begin to type Sean's name, and you will see Excel drops it down. and it sees the pattern in that range of data. All I have to do is press enter on the keyboard and it will complete that pattern, which is way easier than us having to use a full concatenate formula to kind of glue together the pieces like we did in the past. I'm going to do another one out to the side just to sort of expand your scope of knowledge of this flash fill. And I'm also going to teach you a keyboard shortcut to use here as well. Maybe I'd like at this time to say cling.sarah. And of course, on the next one, it'll be Willis.Sean. But instead of me typing it in, because there's this window of opportunity when Excel drops it. And if I keep typing, Excel says, oh, you didn't want me to do that, so I won't drop it again. And so it's sort of tedious to catch it in time. What I'm going to do this time instead is use the keyboard shortcut Control E. And when I use Control E, Excel also will go ahead and flash fill the rest of that column. I find that to be easier, but I like to give you a couple of choices there. You can either type the second one until Excel drops it, or you can use your Control E. So as you see, you could do this literally in any order that you would want it to be displayed. One of my favorite uses of the flash fill is this. If I am doing internal email addresses for everybody in my company, maybe it's cling.sarah@yahoo.com, let's just say. I'll Control E that. Control E will have everybody's email addresses in one clean sweep, which is a massive time saver, obviously. And so that is a neat addition to the Excel family. Starting in the, we have that in 13, 16, and 19. So let me go over at the bottom to just expand that one more sort of level for you, continuing to think about that flash fill. I'm on the text functions sheet at the bottom, and I'm just going to add for myself a couple of columns at the top. I'm going to right click and insert a couple of columns beside this name, Bill MacArthur. And what I did on the previous flash fill is I took something that lived in separate cells and pulled it together into one cell. Here I want to do the opposite. It lives together as Bill MacArthur. I'd like to divide those out and fix the case sensitivity. I'd like to capitalize his first and last name. So in this case, I'm just going to type in Bill. I'll Control E it. And of course, the last name as well. This time I'll type in Lee, just L for Lee to show you you could do this either way. It really is up to you. As soon as you see drop it, Excel drop it, you can press enter on the keyboard. So it's a really quick, easy way to complete patterns. If you're doing any repetitive typing in Excel now, you probably shouldn't be because oftentimes flash fill will do that for you. Do you have questions for me? Mike, any questions you're seeing on these Excel features before we move on?
Sure, a couple.
Okay.
Back on the when you're making the charts, can you change the colors and can you add your own custom colors?
Absolutely, you can. So these were the defaults that just showed up using my F11, but anywhere that you click on the chart, even a bar, let's say, I can go to my Format tab on the ribbon, and there's a shape fill drop down, and I have the ability to change these to whatever I need. I can use my company colors. I can make my own custom color with my own company logos or what have you. So yes, these are fully customizable. Anything that you click on, that's what you're coloring. So you can essentially make this exactly what you'd like. One additional thought with that particular answer is you can change the background of the chart as well. Sometimes I'll bring in my company logo or a picture. So if I click on the plain white background using that shape fill, not only could I bring in a color, but there are also textures, live preview. Don't use the dead fish ever. That's just so bad, y'all. I don't even know why, why the texture of the fish is there, but there you go. Or in my case, I may go get a picture like a company logo, bring that into the background, and it will fill the entire background. I'll just put in a flower to show you how that works. Yeah, so fully customizable, absolutely.
Awesome. And then one quick question. Someone said,
Sure.
did you say Control E or Control End?
E as in end, Control E, just a letter. Good question.
Okay. And then someone asked, will you show us how to print a page?
Sure, be glad to. So if I want to print this page, the key to it is instead of Excel's defaults, I want control over where those page breaks happen. So I'm going to change my view to the page break preview. I want to know where the page breaks occur. And using that page break preview, there are my dotted lines. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. There's my dotted line where Excel is assuming I want the page break. If I don't want it there, I can drag and drop it where I do want the page break to occur. Quick, easy way to control your page breaks.
Great. And then one last question is, can rows be concatenated?
Rows can also be concatenated, yes. The same way that we use the concatenate to bring together Bill and MacArthur, or we brought in Sarah and Kling. You can also use this to bring in multiple rows. Exactly. You would just grab those cells instead of the columns.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's
Sure.
all the questions we have so far.
Very good. Okay, so we'll move on from Excel. Thank you guys for those questions. Keep those coming in as you have them. What I'll do now is I'm going to toggle over to Word. I just have a fictitious executive summary here that I'll show you a couple of features in Word. One of the new features that I want to make sure you're aware of is a lookup feature. A lookup feature is available in all of Microsoft. I happen to be showing you in Word. And what it does is it lets us do a deep dive into a particular word. Maybe one of these words here, I want to know the definition. I want to see some graphics I could use for it. All sorts of things, kind of a Wikipedia search. So I'm just going to choose the word California that's here in this third row. All I'm going to do for California is right click the word. And there is the new Smart Lookup. We have this in 16 and 19 versions of Excel. When I click on Smart Lookup, it opens an Insights pane on the right side. And the first time you ever use it, it has kind of a green banner called Got It. I click on the green banner called Got It. It's a one and done. And from now on, it opens this Insights pane, which gives me all of these categories, like all of these images that I could grab to use for California. I'll scroll down and you'll see there's an Explore Wikipedia here. There's a web search for California, all powered by Bing by default. And the second tab across the top is the Define tab, which of course gives me not only a definition, but even a pronunciation, an audio pronunciation. So if I use the Explore tab just to expand this search of See All Images, I'll click on this one and you'll see that indeed I have all of these great graphics on beautiful California. So that again is available anywhere in Microsoft. I use this a lot in PowerPoint personally, but obviously it's available here in Word as well. And that was found simply by right-clicking a word and choosing the Smart Lookup. Great new addition. We like that one a lot. The other one that I wanted to show you in Word also is something that is relatively new in all of Microsoft called a screenshot. And for this one, what I'm going to do is just open a new Word just to have a blank canvas for you. And in this Word document, I'm going to go up to the Insert tab on the ribbon. And you'll notice here in my illustrations group, there is indeed a drop down for screenshot. It looks like a little camera icon. And the way this works is all of the windows, which I have a lot since I'm teaching you right now, all of my windows that are open behind this Word document are the ones that are being displayed in that drop down gallery. If I choose one of these screenshots, and I will, I'm just going to grab maybe that PowerPoint. It does indeed insert a full screenshot of that screen that I chose, which is great if that's what you need. Maybe you're creating a process or a procedure or a booklet or what have you, and you want to be able to use a full screenshot. That's your tool. I'm going to delete that though, and let me show you one that I prefer, and I use this probably daily. I love this tool, and I think you will too. Many of you, I would imagine, use the snipping tool a lot. It's been around for a while, built into Windows 10. The snipping tool is great, but this new tool that's on the ribbon to me is much better. Let me show you where it lives. Behind that same Insert tab, if I click the drop down of the screenshot again, there are my screenshots. But notice at the bottom, there's a new tool called screen clipping. The way the screen clipping works is if I turn it on, it will kind of make my screen transparent and I can grab just what I need. I'll just do a quick little screen grab of maybe that one paragraph. It immediately pops it into place right where my mouse was. That way I don't have to file to save it or copy and paste it. It just immediately kind of streamlining that process will place it where the mouse was. I'll do one more, insert to screenshot. There's the screen clipping. And I'll grab a different paragraph just so you see. I'm just grabbing that one paragraph and it pops it into place. So something to think about with that is many of you work in dual monitors. So what I typically do is I'll turn on the screen clipping tool here and I'll have on my secondary monitor what I need to go grab a screen capture of. That same tool that I just showed you works exactly the same in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. Think about that for your email. I don't always want to send a whole Excel spreadsheet, the whole Word document. Just need a little screen clipping of that for my email to send you. So that's a great tool also built into Outlook that you may want to use in the future. I use it so often that any button anywhere on the ribbon that you right click, you can add that to your quick access toolbar. You'll notice mine's grayed out because I've already done that. I have mine added here at the top so that I don't have to go chase it every time I want to use it. I just put it right up here on the Word quick access toolbar so that I have ease of access to use that. So that's the screenshot and the new screen capture. So if I have dual monitors, whatever I go drag my mouse over, that's what I'm screen clipping. So whatever it's on, Patricia, either screen, it's going to screen capture that wherever I drag. That's the new screenshot I wanted you to see and the screen clipping, as well as the ability to add a shortcut in your autocorrect. Let me show you this one because this is another one that I use quite often and I think you'll like it. You know autocorrect. You misspell a word, your machine fixes it for you. That's old news. We've used that for years. You may not know where that lives, but you've seen it correct your spelling for a long time. I use that to my advantage. Let me show you where it lives. It's behind the File tab, down to Options. File to Options. And in these categories on the left, I'm going to choose the proofing category, where you will indeed see your autocorrect options. And in that autocorrect options, it has all of that list of things that you misspell. Your computer fixes it for you. That's fine. The reason I'm showing it to you is because for years I've used this to my advantage for things that maybe we type often and I want to replace it with a shortcut. So I'll do a real simple one. If I'm just going to use it for my name, I could shortcut this. You can see I've added one here. The BG, I'll do BDG so I can add that from scratch. If I want to use that for my name, I'll type in my full name on the side. It is case sensitive, so however you type it is how it will be used. So using my initials BDG, I want that to come up as my full name. I'll add that, click OK and OK. And then in my document, anywhere from now on in Microsoft that I put in BDG, lowercase, and press enter on the keyboard, it will auto-populate my full name. That would then work, now that I've added it here in Word, it works across the board in all of Microsoft, including Outlook. So think about that in your use of Outlook. For a full paragraph, you could use 2 or 3 letters to populate a full paragraph of repetitive typing for those auto responses that you use all the time in Outlook. And your character limit in the width box is 255 characters, which is quite a paragraph. 255. Okay. So that's a quick trick tip that may help you auto fill some of those repetitive typing that you use often. Question you have for me about Word?
Bobby, we have a bunch, so cut me
Okay.
off if you need to go on.
Sure.
And I just want to remind folks, if you can, please type your questions into the Q&A box versus the chat box. We had some come in via the chat box, and I want to make sure we don't miss them. So the first question, how do I pick which screen I want to screen clip from?
So when I turn on that screen clipping here, I can go grab it from either screen. I have dual monitors. I can pick it up from my left screen or my right screen. It doesn't matter. Either one's fine. If I screen clip here and I grab Word, you'll see it automatically put it from my secondary monitor. Whatever I drag over, that's where it inserts.
Okay. And someone asked, I use the Windows snipping tool often for screenshots. What advantages does the Word screenshot provide?
Great question. So the advantage that provides over the old snipping tool is this. If I turn on the snipping tool and I do a snippet, there's my snipping tool. There it is. Sorry, it took a second to pop up. There's my snipping tool. I'll turn it on and I'll grab a snippet of this paragraph. And there it is. But then I have to do something with that, right? I have to either copy paste it or file to save it. It's an added step I don't want. Whereas the one I showed you will automatically pop it into place right where your mouse is. That's the advantage.
Okay. And can you select a different search engine other than Bing for the smart lookup?
Bing is the default. I'm unaware of a way to change that default.
Okay. And can you please show us how to use the different header, how to use different headers in the same Microsoft Word file?
Different headers. So if I double click up towards the top of the page or even the lower half of the page towards the bottom, it puts me into the header or footer view, and that gives me a full devoted ribbon tab called design so that I can choose my header from here. And these are the drop down options with the built-in headers that you can grab for Word.
Okay, one person says, I don't see the smart lookup feature. I don't know if we can help with that. But
smart lookup feature. If you right click and you don't see smart lookup, it could be that you're in a previous version that doesn't yet have it. That's what I would imagine. If you right click and don't see it, you just don't have that version just yet. It should be the next time you upgrade.
Okay, and the last one, somebody just made a comment, said that you can use the Windows key, Shift, and S to quickly get to the snipping tool just as an alternative.
Thank you for that. Windows key, Shift, S is going to give you even a quicker way to get that snipping tool if that's something you're a big fan of. I know a lot of you will be. Y'all will use that one often, I have a feeling. Good.
And that's our questions for that section.
Thank you, Mike. Very well done. Great questions you have coming in. What I'm going to do now is toggle over to PowerPoint, and then we'll do Outlook lastly. In my PowerPoint, I've just got a couple of generic plain white background slides so that you can kind of see the features a little bit better. And what I'm going to show you here on slide number 2, which is just a blank slide, is one of the more popular questions that I get about PowerPoint. How could I go externally to get something like a chart from Excel, maybe the one we created earlier, and bring it into PowerPoint without just a copy paste? Because if I copy paste, there's a couple of problems with that. Sometimes it doesn't come in properly, right? You guys have copied and pasted before into a current presentation and it comes in all wonky. It doesn't retain its original integrity like you need it to. The second problem is there are times where I want to link that file from my desktop so that if the one on my desktop changes, it will automatically update here in my PowerPoint. That way, if I have an every Friday presentation giving these updates on these numbers, I don't have to go get fresh data every time. So I'm going to show you the difference between linking versus embedding. Embedding is like a copy paste, but retains the original integrity. The linking keeps it linked to the source file. So any updates will happen in PowerPoint. Here is where I'm going to go to do this. Insert tab on the ribbon to this little bitty obscure button, but it's magical. It's called Object. Insert Object. It's in the text group. If you're having trouble finding it, it's right beside the word art, if that's helpful. When I click on the Insert to Object, it gives me this dialog box where I'm going to choose the second radio button that says Create from File. In other words, I already have a file created on my desktop. I'm going to browse and go get that. When I browse to my desktop and I go get that one that I called Excel chart, you and I created that one together just a few minutes ago. When I grab that Excel chart, I have the choice here to link it or not. And I'll show you the difference. This first one, I won't link it. I'm just going to bring it in. It's basically going to be like a copy paste. I'm embedding it. It is what it is. I won't link it. I'm going to click OK. Give it a moment to load. It's going to come in. And the reason I'm seeing this view is because this was the last view that we were on when we saved and closed it. In fact, I'll double click it to show you that. Let me double click it. Do you see these at the bottom? I have these different sheet tabs. I was toggling along in these, and I was in that concatenate sheet before I saved and closed that file. So the last view I was in before I saved and closed, that's what's going to come in. For this one, I'm going to leave it just like it is, and I'm going to click away from it. In fact, I'll put it on the chart, just since we're talking about bringing in a chart. I'll leave it on that sheet, and I'm going to click away from it. There indeed is my chart with the crazy little flower on it. And it is linked, it's embedded, so it doesn't change if the content changes. I'm going to go to another blank slide. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Insert to object. I'm going to go get that file from my desktop called Excel chart. This time I will link it and click OK. I'm going to double click it again. And when I double click it, I am in the original sheet. I'm in the original Excel file on my desktop, and any changes I make here will automatically update to that PowerPoint. So that's food for thought for you. Just remember, the reason we're seeing this view is because that was the last view I was in when I saved and closed it. Any changes I make to this one or to the one on the desktop affects both sides. It's a linked two-way street link to that file. So that's an interesting one, to be able to link a file to anything, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, anything you're linking to, it will automatically stay fresh. Just be sure you keep that in the same location. Mine's on my desktop. I don't want to move that from the desktop. It sees that file path. The second one that I want to show you in my PowerPoint is a newer feature called the Animation Painter. If you're familiar with the paintbrush that we've had for years and years, you can basically copy formatting from different places. It's sort of similar to that tool. Here's how it works. On my Animations tab, I want to be able to put an animation on my title. And maybe it's just going to be a fly-in animation. A really basic fly-in is what I'm going to create. And that title does indeed fly in. And I've decided I want to put that same animation on all the other slides, but I don't want to spend too much time doing that, right? So I'm going to use this time my Animation Painter, which lives right here on the Animations tab, called Animation Painter. I'm going to double click that button, because the reason I'm double clicking is it will lock that on as a paintbrush. You see my mouse is now a paintbrush. With the double click, it locks it on so that everything else I click will also fly in very quickly. I'm applying that fly in animation to everything else that I click on every other slide. When I'm done, I hit escape on my keyboard. So to recap that, it's just a quick way to apply an animation that you like to multiple other pieces on other slides, because once I turn on the Animation Painter, everything else I click anywhere else in the slide deck, it applies that particular animation to it. So just a shortcut. When you're done, you hit escape. And now I have a fly-in for basically everything on both of the, on all of my slide deck. One more I'll show you here. On this last slide, I have a really, really basic bullet point list. We sometimes call this death by PowerPoint. You've sat through these presentations before, and it is not very fun when it's not a little bit graphically rich. So I want to bring this PowerPoint to life without staying up all night working on it. And the way I'm going to do that is by using a feature called Smart Art. If you haven't used it, you'll love it. It really is very smart. And the way I use it is I click inside of the bullet points that I've created, and on my home tab, there's a drop down called Convert to Smart Art. I want to convert those bullets to a graphically rich piece, and I'm going to do that by hovering over. I'm just hovering. Live preview. Check those out. How super cool is that? Bringing them to life, lots of choices without me having to individually bump these up a notch. Just hovering. Couple more so you can kind of see your choices here. Once I lock it into one that I like, I'll choose the right pointing arrow. Then there they are, and I could very easily be able to manipulate these and customize these using this pop-out text box. If I want to add another shape, I simply add a bullet to the text box. If I press enter on my keyboard and add another bullet, there we have another shape on the Smart Art. So super, super easy to use that and add colors, etc. Lots of customization options that are very user-friendly from the ribbon. So that's the quick, easy Smart Art to be able to sort of bump it up a notch graphically. Question you have for me about the PowerPoint?
They came roaring in. We got a bunch here.
Y'all are on a roll now.
When you link an Excel chart, if you make changes to the Excel document, do you need to have PowerPoint open, or will the changes update when you open the presentation?
Great question. You do not have to have PowerPoint open when you change Excel. The next time I open PowerPoint next week, I'll get a pop-up that says this presentation contains links. Do you want to update? And if I say yes, it's like a refresh. It'll automatically update it.
Great. The next one is, can you create a shortcut for linking in PowerPoint?
A shortcut for linking, not that I know of. I always use insert to object. If there is a shortcut, it typically will show up as you hover over the button. And in this case, I don't see a shortcut to do that.
And what's the best way to insert or embed a video from, say, YouTube?
Good question. They've made that process easier in PowerPoint in the newer versions. Behind my insert tab, there is the audio and video option, and in the video, they now will allow us to pull that in from an online video, which will automatically bring it in and give us a link directly from YouTube, because they know that's mostly how we bring our videos in anyway. You see that? There's YouTube. I just do a search for the video and I can bring it in straight from YouTube.
All right. And does the double click feature work on the paint button in Word or Excel?
It does indeed work for all of Microsoft. If I double click the paintbrush, it locks it on. You're used to clicking it once for a one-time use, but if you double click it, it locks it on for multiple uses. That's a good one to know. Yes.
All right. And the last one here is, please show how you change colors again using Smart Art.
If I am in my Smart Art, it was plain white, but I get that Smart Art Design tab, and there's a Change Colors drop down. And these colors that you see in the drop down will automatically be complementary to your current presentation. So if you're using a company template with your own company colors, these in the drop down will automatically match that color palette. Good to know.
That's it for this section.
Good, good.
Thanks, Bobby.
Well done. Love your questions. I love the way you think. I'm now going to give you a fictitious outlook. Just so you know, this is fictitious. This is just a lab that I used to teach from. And I'm going to show you a couple of Outlook tricks to wrap us up today. Starting on the ribbon with this new category called Quick Steps. We've had this just for a couple of versions, relatively new probably to you. And they're exactly that. They're just they're quick shortcuts. What we've done all day together is just the quick buttons that streamline the process. The most popular one here is the team email, because there's that distribution team that you email all day, every day. I can attach that distribution list to that team email icon. Here's how it works. When I click on it the first time to set it up, it's going to prompt me to name it. So maybe this is going to be my accounting department. Maybe I email accounting all the time, or operations, or sales. Once I name the button, I can click on the to box and choose some addresses to attach to that button. I'll just grab a few and click on OK. and I'll save that as a new quick step, which will then become indeed the accounting button. That's just the name of the button. Every day now, when I click on that accounting button, it automatically opens a brand new email with all of those addresses in the to box, ready to go, saving me the process of having to go dig for that distribution team every time I want to email them. So that's a really quick, easy, quick step. There's also a to manager, which would go to the one person that you email all day, every day. You could attach a person to that button. If you like the distribution team, because that's a really popular one, and oftentimes folks will say, well, could I make some more of those? Could I have other distribution teams? Yes, you could. I can create a new custom button here called Create New. Maybe I also want operations. I want a button called Operations. Look at the actions that I could attach to that one button. I could move it, flag it, forward it. In this case, I just want it to be a new message to my manager, maybe their student 2. I could even layer other actions in there if that's something I want to do. You could make it do 2 or 3 different things for that one button. And if you think that's just going to rock your world, you can attach a hotkey to that as well. I'm going to just click Finish. There's my manager button to the one person that I email all day long. But if I need it to be a distribution list, then of course I can actually add many people to that. So I only added 1. I could have added 10 and it become another distribution button. So those are now my custom buttons, quick steps, repetitive actions that you can make happen a little more quickly. The second thing I want to show you in Outlook that's been around for a very long time. I taught this back in the 03 version, but most of the time I'm introducing this to everybody. Nobody knows this exists. It's a journal. There's a built-in journal in Outlook. The way I get it is by down here at the bottom where my buttons are to navigate, there's an ellipsis button. In that ellipsis button, there is a folders icon where basically I can choose to see all the folders in my navigation pane. I'm going to turn that on. And there in the middle of those folders is indeed a journal. The journal automatically pops up. It's a timeline. So this would be something I might enter that's not really an appointment and not really a task. It's just something I need to track. Maybe meeting minutes, maybe a conversation with somebody, a customer, a vendor. So I'm going to make a quick journal entry just to let you see what this looks like. I'll say that this was actually a conversation with Bob. In this conversation with Bob, the entry type, there's a bazillion of these. I'll just scroll and let you peek at them. There could be a conversation or a document, a letter, a meeting, a note, a phone call. I'm going to leave mine on a conversation. And in this conversation with Bob, I'm taking some real fancy notes. Do you like my notes? And I'm documenting what me and this customer are discussing. I'll then save and close that journal entry. It becomes a ticker on the timeline of a conversation with Bob. If I then need to follow up with my customer Bob in 3 months, yes, I could put an appointment in to have another conversation with Bob in 3 months, but then I have to go back and dig for this journal entry. So what I'd rather do is you can use the drag and drop feature to drag that journal entry and put it into your calendar and let go. It automatically opens an appointment with the journal entry that goes with it. So when it pops up to remind me, I don't have to go dig for what we talked about with Bob 3 months ago. So that again was the drag and drop feature from the journal entry to any of these. I could even email it to somebody by clicking the email icon. It takes that conversation with Bob details to put it in an email. Now that was the drag and drop using the journal entry. Just so you know, to piggyback on that, you can use drag and drop even in your inbox. Don't miss this one. From my inbox, if I need to convert that email to an appointment, I can drag and drop it to my calendar. Opens a new appointment with the whole email thread in it. So when it pops up to remind me, I don't have to go dig for the details in my email. It's right there in that appointment, kind of packaged together. I can drag and drop from email to anywhere, to my a task. I can put it in as a task with the drag and drop. It becomes a task. So there you have the drag and drop option to sort of put that into somewhere else in your Outlook, calendar, etc., what have you. And then one more that I'll show you here is the a shortcut to use for a signature block. I've used this for a long, again, since the 03 version, an old trick, but maybe not something you've thought about before. You can use your signature block to your advantage. If I choose File to Options, there's my mail category, and it has, of course, my signatures, right? You may have done this a really long time ago. Maybe you don't remember where it lived. And just stick with me with this for one moment. If I create a new signature, because I have none in here yet, if I use a new signature, maybe this one's going to be my personal signature. I'll call it personal. And this one's just going to be thank you and Bobby Garrity. Maybe I'll use that for all my internal emails. They know who I am and my role and what the logo looks like. So maybe I'll use that for my internal emails. I'm going to save that. Make another one, new. Call this one my business signature. I'll save that as well, and I'll make that signature my default for all of my outgoing emails and replies. I'm doing that over on the side. I'm going to make one more. Let's say that I have this repetitive email that I type all the time. I'm just going to call it repetitive. Maybe it's one that I do this, always do this response. There's my long response email. Do y'all like my typing for time's sake? There's my long paragraph email that I type all the time, all day. And I could add my signature at the bottom, right? And I'm going to save it and click OK and OK. I have several signatures. I could have 10 more of these. When I open a new email, there's my business signature that I told it to use by default. But if I right click it, I can toggle to the others, which could have my logo, my full signature, but also a full letter with it, which essentially you can use like a template and toggle to those very, very quickly, right? To just streamline that process a little bit. They also live from the up here on the ribbon, just so you know. Mike, what questions do you have for me for Outlook?
We've got a bunch. The first one is, can I create CC addresses in quick steps?
CC addresses in quick steps. I have not used the CCs, but I have a feeling you can, because when you add a new custom, the create new, you can look in the actions and be able to use the new feature, the new message. And when I add a to, I don't see a CC. I dig a little more than what I just did, but I only see a to. I actually thought there would be a CC there and there wasn't. So it appears to me that you cannot. I would dig a little more in that box though, just to make sure I'm correct on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And is the quick step email replacing the groups that we currently use, or is there a difference?
They are not replacing, it's in addition to. So you still can go to your contacts and you still can create a brand new contact group, a distribution list. Same way you always have from your contacts. That works identically to what you're used to. The one I showed you is simply a quick step right here in my email that I don't have to go dig for it. I can just use the quick step.
Great. Someone also mentioned that the CC is actually under more options.
Thank you for that. I had a feeling it could be. I just wasn't seeing it under the more options. So you guys dig in here. There's a more options where you can create the CC if you prefer that. Should also probably be a BCC.
Yep. And someone says, click on the show options and the BCC will pop up. So exactly.
Y'all got my back. Thank you.
And the next question is, can you show how to get to the journal again?
Sure will. The ellipsis at the bottom beside your main buttons, I chose folder. Folder is a full list of all of your available folders. which right in the middle has the journal.
When you drag and drop, does it delete the email?
Good question. And no, it does not. When I drag and drop, it leaves that email in the inbox or that journal entry in the journal. If you want that, that's great. If you don't want that, I don't want to have to go back and delete it. I want to move it to the calendar as an appointment. Instead of left click and dragging, you can right click and drag to the calendar. And it gives you some additional options. Let me grab a different email, including the ability, sorry about that, I was grabbing the wrong one, the ability to move here as appointment with attachment. That way it moves it. I don't have to go back and delete it. So right
Wonderful.
click and drag gives you more choices.
Is there a way to expand the space limit in Outlook? Sometimes our employees use this as a custom file cabinet and run out of space allotted.
No, the only way I know is just to archive it like you always have behind the file tab, and that'll increase your space, of course. But other than that, no.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Bobby. I want to give everybody a few more minutes to type in any additional questions about any of the office programs that we discussed today. Please feel free to take a moment and type them into the questions box. We'll get back to them, even if they're from one of the prior programs. And if anyone's interested in the material presented in this webinar, or if you have questions regarding available course offerings, please contact your local center for further information. You can log on to newhorizons.com and do a zip code search, and it will tell you the center nearest you. Our webinar schedule is also up to date on the website. Again, www.newhorizons.com. You can just scroll about halfway down the page and click on the webinars link, and you can view the full schedule and register for any upcoming sessions that you want. And a friendly reminder, because this has come up, we will be sending out the recording link from today's webinar, and that will come tomorrow. So a bunch more questions here. And by the way, you're getting a whole lot of thank yous as well.
My pleasure.
So the first question is, how do I stop autocorrect when I'm writing an acronym? This question came in following the Word session.
When you're creating a word that is autocorrecting and you don't want it to, you can actually add it to the dictionary and have it leave it alone so that it will be added. But the other option that you have in that autocorrect option, I'll just do it from Word because that's where you and I did it, is to add it, delete it from the autocorrect options. That way it doesn't stop every time. So where the autocorrections were, when you find one that you don't want to do that anymore, you can actually delete it from that list and it won't autocorrect that anymore.
Wonderful. And then someone made a suggestion on the email size before I get to the questions, said emptying the deleted items folder will give you more space. Sometimes people don't do that.
Take out the trash.
Yep. And the next question is, can you explain archiving?
Yes, the archiving basically takes it off of your main system and puts it kind of on your local machine. And although I have access to it here on the left, it's sort of stored in a different space so that it's not absorbing space and making IT grumpy. So it's behind the file tab under the cleanup tools. You have the ability to archive it. Basically moves it to a new folder that's on your own system.
I think that answers this question, which is when you put something in archive, does it actually remove it from the quota?
By quota, I don't know what you mean. It moves it off of your own internal system, but you still have access to it. You still could get to those and reply to those, but it is backed up in a different location, stored in a different location.
I think the question in terms of quota was about, does it impact your size, the amount of files? And then one other comment somebody made, typically system admins manage your Outlook mailbox size. So you can speak to the system admin if you need to adjust that.
Yep, those are governed internally. So ask your IT.
Yeah, that is all the questions we've had so far. We do have a couple of minutes. So if people have, there comes one already. Is there an easy way to generate pivot tables?
Yeah, the pivot tables they behave exactly the same that they always have. There's nothing really new necessarily in the pivot tables, but you do have a new slicer that's been included. The pivot table you can create by choosing Insert to Pivot Table. It takes all of that data and puts it into a brand new sheet. And you simply drag and drop into the drop zones. This is the same it's always been. Nothing new here. If you're familiar with pivot tables, you still drag and drop where they belong and build the pivot table. That has not changed.
And how do you update the pivot table when you change the source?
So when you change something in the source file, it won't automatically update. I don't know why that is. It's a weird Excel rule. You have to physically refresh it on the Analyze tab for it to update.
Bobby, I'm getting so many thank yous. I'm having to scroll through them to make sure we get to the actual questions. People really
Good.
enjoyed your session.
Me too.
The next one is there a limit to the number of items you can put in the quick access toolbar?
No, it'll make it bigger. It'll take up more space on the ribbon, but no, I haven't seen a limit.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I delete the ones you don't want. That's a suggestion. There are some of these I wouldn't use. I'd right click and remove those to make room for the ones you do want to use.
Great, great. Looks like that's all of the questions. We do have a couple of minutes here if anybody has any additional questions that they would like to share. Again, you're getting a lot of thank yous.
Absolute
Wonderful. I'm glad it was so
pleasure.
helpful.
So much fun hanging out with y'all today. Come back and we'll play again. We have full day classes on each one of these, of course. We'll do more of a deep dive.